So I was selling software, mostly decisioning systems. So like admission systems, portfolio review systems, mostly to higher education. And one of my customers was MIT. And we got to talking with their admissions office about the difficulty that they had year over year evaluating the tens of thousands of applications they get every year from all over the world, mostly for fraud. So, a lot of people change or fake their transcripts or their high school diplomas or other academic records. And so we looked at this new technology called Bitcoin, which back in 2015 was pretty much the only one of the very few blockchains out there. And we partnered with the MIT Media Lab to use Bitcoin as an independent verification infrastructure for academic records. So we developed a standard, an open technology standard, which first we called trustless transcripts, and then that became block certs, and then that became what today is known as verifiable credentials, which is an official W3C standard for verifying any kind of claim online. So, my company was really there launching the movement that today is known as decentralized identity. And we saw Bitcoin as the perfect infrastructure to do that.
Nice. And, it just makes me think about like that decentralized identity. That kind of segues into one of my other questions because I know that you're kind of well versed in this. And my question to you, Natalie, is, how can Bitcoin be used as a human rights tool for democracy versus the CBDC narrative that we're seeing, which can be used to decrease income equality?
Yeah. So I think the major distinction that the world is going to make in the 21st century between different types of technologies is this a peer-to-peer technology, or is this a third-party intermediary technology? Any technology where you're relying on a third party to relay a message or complete a transaction, that is a vector for capture by powerful actors. So, in the US, going back to the early 20th century, that was when some of the first privacy cases started coming before the courts, including the Supreme Court, in part because that's when telephony or the telephone started becoming widespread. And the phone lines were constantly being bugged and surveilled, either by private companies, phone companies or others, or by the government, the police. And the Constitution didn't have clear guidance on this issue at the time. And so there were legal battles around, like, is this, unwarranted search and seizure? And the courts have ruled in various ways over the years. But the early 20th century is when this doctrine, known as the third party doctrine, became the official government position, which is that if there's a third party between me and you and we're communicating, it's not search and seizure if we listen in and capture your message. That is still the point of view of the US government today. And that's the point of view of most governments. And so the only real way around that, like, there aren't good legal remedies for that, as we've seen. I mean, we've had more than a century now to deal with this issue, and the courts and the electoral process, the democratic process, have not been able to protect people's privacy and communication. And so the only way to actually fix this problem is to develop peer-to-peer forms of communication, including value transfer, the transfer of money that nobody can intercept. And that's why end-to-end encryption is a human right, and that's why Bitcoin is a human rights technology.